Hello, I'm Chris Januszewski and welcome to the Rebellious Times Podcast. Today we've got a really interesting guest on the show. We've got Isaac Hicks, CEO of Autonomi. Now, Autonomi transforms client visions into ROI via AI-powered automation by reducing costs while achieving a very high level of accuracy. Really excited to share this. The title of the episode is Eliminating Soul-Crushing Work Through Intelligent Automation. Isaac, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, doing really well. How are you doing?
Doing all right, thanks. Really excited to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on. Love to tell your story here. You've got a really interesting background. You're solving really interesting problems here, and you've got unique experience from your Accenture consulting background that I think puts you in a really strong position to, tackle these problems in an extremely effective way. So I always like to start with understanding the founder's journey, kind of where you're from, what your background is, and how you ended up building Autonomi.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to get started, I went to college at Missouri S&T. I was an aerospace engineer, and I went into the aerospace engineering field for about a year and decided it just really wasn't for me. The working for the government, all of the red tape and everything, it just wasn't really a good culture fit. So, I was kind of looking for my next opportunity, and I got into business transformation consulting with Accenture. So I was responsible for the major transitions whenever a company was to get acquired. A company gets acquired, there's a big system migration that has to occur where, the old company gets put onto the new system. So throughout that, I really learned a lot. I got a lot of different experience in a lot of different organizations. But one thing that I noticed was that there was a significant amount of problems around kind of like these very manual, tedious reconciliation processes, very manual and tedious data entry processes. So that was something I took note of because it was something that people always complained about, but I didn't really take too much action on it quite yet. So throughout my experience there, I got involved in a couple of different entrepreneurial activities and decided that I was going to kind of go out on my own and try to do my own thing. So the first thing of note that I really did was Crowd Drivers. So this was a marketing organization. I built this up from being a freelance copywriter. So I started out just doing like ad placements and stuff for people on my own. Eventually grew that company into a $1.5 million organization over the course of about 2 years. Now, whenever I was doing that, I was, kind of running it like a startup, trying to be really aggressive, not a whole lot of money in the bank at any given time, just continuous double down, triple down, reinvest. And something that I never really wanted to do was spend money on middle management because it didn't seem like there was really a significant purpose to have a middle management layer. So what I had done was I created kind of a master automation system that whenever we had somebody come in, all of the tasks would get assigned to the appropriate people. All of those tasks would be tracked. If, they were late on any tasks, it would let me know, it would let them know. I'd be able to do progress updates and everything through the system, and I was really able to automate a lot of what I was doing in my business. And what was interesting was as I had meetings with people to try to pitch them on marketing services, what they would ask, like, hey, how is your team? Your team's quite small. How are you going to be able to handle this? And I explained them this system, and they were more interested in the system than they were in the marketing automation. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I took note of that as well. So then COVID hit, and whenever COVID hit, I had 3 major clients that constituted about 80% of my book, and then a variety of smaller clients. And again, I did not have like a whole lot of cash reserves. So all 3 of those clients went away, and everything just kind of crashed, right? So I found myself kind of back at ground zero, starting over. What am I going to do next? And I really got into the idea of neural net framework. So this was before the ChatGPT, before attention is all you need, before any of that. The idea of using neural nets to do regression analysis for various companies, so being able to determine what ads are most likely to work, what target markets are most interested based on different demographics, being able to put all of this into neural net model use like perceptrons and stuff. So started doing that, got some traction with that, and then whenever Chat GPT came out, then the whole business automation thing really took off, and I was able to revisit this idea of people kind of being mired by these tedious, repetitive, awful processes. Very high level people having to do things such as copy and paste stuff from Excel into a different file, do all of these kinds of things. So I started making automations around this, and then slowly but surely built that organization up into what it is today, where we primarily serve middle market entities, and we look to tie systems together, get rid of inefficiencies, and otherwise, really benefit both the employer, the employee, and ourselves, make it a win-win-win by reducing the amount of tedious work the employee has to do, increasing the effectiveness of that employee so that the employer gets the benefit and sees the ROI. And then, of course, we get to actually perform the work. So it's a really good thing we have going on.
Love it. And which functions do you typically work with in a business? It sounds like marketing is an obvious one given your experience there, but are there other functions that you work with?
Yeah, so surprisingly enough, with marketing, we don't really do too much with that anymore, just because we've seen a shift, especially after AI-based marketing tools came out, in really moving towards of like a content forward-based approach for marketing, and that seems to really be significantly more successful. So we're really focused more in like the HR space, and then of course in the system integration. So whenever we do system integration, a lot of what we'll do is automating the process of following up with interested leads, making sure everything gets documented appropriately in the CRM. If we're doing something in HR, what we're looking at typically doing is connecting the payroll system and the benefit system and the HRIS system all together so that there isn't this need to coordinate, because especially when it comes to like open enrollment periods, or it comes to like hiring and onboarding, offboarding, a lot of times HR managers are having to interact with 3 or 4 different systems, and then, who didn't do what, where, let me send a follow-up, and it's a very, very tedious, very grueling process for them.
Okay. Interesting. So a lot of HR, and I work with a lot of businesses and startups that work kind of across the spectrum. I kind of focused a bit on AI businesses as well. And it's amazing the impact this whole automation wave is having on HR, and how a lot of the processes are being reinvented, hopefully for the better for people, for both the people that work in HR and for the people that rely on HR for the job. So interesting. Okay, I'm interested to know a little bit more about when we talked about. So it often comes up in Rebellious Times Podcast, the impact on people that AI is having, and AI taking over certain roles within roles and certain functions. And obviously there are a lot of people that are a little nervous about potential to lose their job. You've got an interesting perspective on this, on how AI can be implemented to actually help people and to improve the quality of their own work experience. So I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to start out, I do want to differentiate between, kind of like good AI providers and like bad AI providers, because there's a lot of noise in the AI space right now, because, like a lot of vibe coding tools have come out. People feel like they can just go on YouTube, learn how to use a vibe coding tool for a week, and then go out and start selling some AI stuff. And, the issue with that is whenever you're trying to apply AI, but you don't really understand the underlying business process or understand what you're trying to do, you end up making some really big problems. So, there's this common meme in the HR space that I think is really funny, where it's like, well, the job market's officially broken because people are using AI to write their resumes, and then recruiters are using AI to read the resumes, and so nobody's actually doing anything anymore, right? And that's just like a picturesque representation of, that's not the way to do it. Now, whenever you apply AI correctly, you kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Because the thing is, there are some things that absolutely require human input. That's never going to go away because business, by its very nature, is a human-to-human interaction. And so what you really want to do whenever you're looking at an AI implementation is you want to get rid of everything that gets in the way of those human-to-human interactions, right? So let's take, for example, a sales development rep. Now, AI getting on the phone and calling the person, building the relationship, taking them out to dinner, really understanding the pain points, being able to relate authentically. AI is not going to be able to do any of that. And so if you try to use AI messaging and AI-based prompting in order to try to create sales, we can already see that that doesn't work. And that's part of why cold outbound is really crashing right now. Now, things that AI can really help with is what happens after that meeting? Well, we have to take the transcript, we have to take our notes, we have to get it all in the CRM, we have to look at the CRM and make sure we follow up with the people that are in the CRM that we haven't heard from. We need to check in and we need to get them more information if they're asking for more information. Oh, they have this question that was asked, we have to answer this question. And there's all of this administration that occurs that isn't really part of what traditionally is sales. It's not what is going to help the salesperson really do their job, and those are the kinds of things that are ripe for automation. And if you look at any job description, you can kind of see there's two types of work. There's the type of work that requires a human, and that type of work typically is the part of the job that's enjoyable. And then there's the part of the work that doesn't really require a human, but a human is forced to do. And that's the part of the job that's typically not so enjoyable. And, I always focus on getting rid of that latter part. Because if you can get rid of that latter part, that's where both the ROI in terms of money is concerned and the actual, benefit to the lives of the individuals in the organization is as well.
I mean, what a dream that would be, to be able to do your job and just do the fun bits and let AI do the boring bits, right? Do the administrative tasks, and that's going to make you so much more productive. I mean, if you're in sales, that means you can make so many more calls, or build so many more business plans, or whatever it is that actually drives the revenue and helps you hit your goals. So yeah, love that. And I think from a human perspective, it's the admin parts. It's the doing the same thing every day for a long time, where large parts of your job don't feel like the bits that generate the value. That's kind of what causes burnout, I think. And so, addressing that whole work life, or that whole working experience is something that we're hopeful that AI can be implemented in a way that can do that for us. So love it. Okay. In terms of automations, what do you see as the vision for the workplace in terms of, every company out there is trying to figure out how to automate certain things given the technology that's available. What are we seeing as the future for businesses, the ones that successfully implement, the ones that, actually benefit from this wave, as opposed to, ones that potentially doing things incorrectly?
Yeah, so I think one of the key things is you want to be very cognizant of exactly what the work is to be done and exactly what can and cannot be done by artificial intelligence. Because, a lot of organizations get really excited about AI being this magic box that's going to solve all the problems. And it's not. It's not a magic box that's going to solve all the problems. What it really is an intelligent, low-level employee that can take care of a lot of the things that are repetitive, rule-based, and relatively static, right? And then what the LLM really does is add a layer of the ability to communicate effectively or make decisions effectively in situations where there may be less information. Now, what this looks like at an organizational level is you really want to zoom in on the actual role, and then you want to look at the tasks that constitute that role, and you want to bifurcate those tasks. And the organizations that are successful are going to be the ones that truly understand what the function of each role is, truly understand what work needs to be done in each function, not just what the job description says, because everybody who's worked in a business knows that the job description is like not real, right? There's the job description and then there's what actually has to be done to get the job done, and that's typically completely separate things. If you know what needs to be done to get the job done, and you can separate it into things that absolutely require your attention and things that do not require your attention, and then you can be very surgical about where you put in AI-enabled workflows. That's what's going to get the ROI. That's what's going to be beneficial, because for every single AI implementation you have, you should understand that process well enough to be able to very clearly delineate amount of time saved, amount of money saved, return. If you cannot very clearly determine those metrics, then you do not understand the process well enough to implement AI in it. And if you do not understand the process well enough, you will fail. And that is just what it is.
Brilliant, love it. And when you go into a client's business, how often is it that they have this deep level of understanding to enable you to kind of just go with your building your systems, or do you often really have to dig into the business and help the business owner uncover certain things they may not have been aware of to be able to get this depth of understanding?
Yeah, so I mean, it's effectively never, right? Effectively, nobody is ready to just start going with AI, because I mean, if they were, they would probably be able to figure it out, right? Because the hard part of AI isn't the actual implementation of the workflows. There are some nuances there. It can be a little bit tricky. There are some things that you have to learn, and it does make sense to go with a professional rather than try to do it on your own. But the tricky part is being able to very clearly lay out a chronological step-by-step picture of, here are the things that I am responsible for. This is what I do in this situation. This is what I do in this situation. Here are all of the situations that we typically handle, and then here's what we do if we run into a situation we haven't ran into before, right? Because, I mean, if we go back to the sales development representative, right? So it's like, okay, on the surface, the job looks like, yeah, I get some leads, and then I make some calls and send some emails, and I try to get people to respond to me, and then I put all the information in the CRM, right? But then once you zoom in, it's like, okay, so where are you getting those leads, and how are you validating what leads are better versus worse? Are you looking against some kind of standard? What's your ICP definition? Do you understand your ICP definition well enough to be able to structure the sales value proposition, and how do you tailor that value proposition to every individual that you talk to? How do you change the way that you talk for each one of those individuals? How do you determine what your follow-up sequence is going to be? Does your follow-up sequence vary by different sub-niches within your ICP? All of these kinds of things are things that need to be discussed, but things that you don't really think about until you're asked.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. You got me thinking a lot for my own business, my Rebel Commerce Solutions business as well there. So, I help startups as a growth partner with sales, marketing and partnerships. And I'm still kind of individual task-based right now, but I see an opportunity to automate almost end-to-end. At some point, somebody will come out with an end-to-end marketing sales solution out of the box that will configure itself based on your business and just start driving phone calls and booking leads in. And I think that's the place we're going to get to, and I'm sure there are a lot of companies working to build that out there now.
Well, see, what's tricky about that, though, in particular, is I'm a strong believer in sales being one of the things that we're never going to be able to fully automate, and the reason for that is if it was done well and it was done properly, then that would be all right. But the thing is, the level of understanding you have to have of the target market in order to be able to send somebody a message that they're going to respond to is very, very high. And I'm sure everybody's heard, it's like, oh, business is a numbers game. You have to reach out to 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and 99% of them are going to say no, and that 1% is where you make your money. And the thing is, so many people are automating so many messages that, like, I don't respond to any cold outbound whatsoever anymore. And I think most decision makers don't now, right? And so I think that the sales and marketing organization is going to see a pretty significant change, because there's going to have to be a movement more towards thought leadership and like network building, community building, things like that. Because what I've seen, just in my experience, is there's kind of a return to the old school methods of sales and marketing that's coming back in a big way as a result of all of this automation and poor targeting that's going out.
Yeah, that's totally true. People have been bombarded with messages, and it's impossible to respond. But also, businesses dropped off doing cold calling because people used to be getting sick of receiving cold. I still get a lot, by the way. They're always offering me business loans. I don't know why. I can't get off the list.
I get like 10 business loan calls a day myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the art of cold calling, I think, is coming back. The art of actually picking up the phone. I think, as long as it's not for business loans, I think CEOs often appreciate a call from somebody who has a genuine solution that is a fit, that has done some research and understand the business. And the cold calling's not dead, but cold outbound, is up against it based on this sheer volume.
Well, it's like the spray and pray, right? The spray and pray, it used to work. A lot of people are trying to do it, and they're just like, oh, it's all about scale. If I'm only getting 1%, or I'm only getting 0.5% instead of 1% now, I just have to double my outbound. Oh, if I'm only getting 0.1%, then I just have to 10x my outbound. But I mean, I don't think that's the answer personally.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, brilliant. I've loved having you on the show. Thank you for your insights here. That's amazing. So it's Isaac Hicks, everybody. Autonomi. You can find Isaac Hicks on LinkedIn, and the URL for your site is
getautonomi.com. So getautonomi.com.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Isaac. It's been wonderful having you on, and I'll catch up with you soon.
All right. Thank you.